presidency, and it's really a great honor and pleasure to be with all of you. With your permission, and if you authorize me, I will be the master of ceremony of this fantastic opportunity that we have in front of us. Today, we will realize a dream. We have been fighting for this moment for many years now, and this dream is coming true at the moment. You heard it on the video. For many years, the World Health Organization, the global health community has been alerting the international community saying climate crisis is a health crisis. Our health is very much affected. We need to respond to all of that. For many years, we have been seeing how our health community was growing and growing and gaining momentum, but we never have the opportunity that we have today. We were ready to go to this COP anyway, through the window, but fortunately, they have offered us the opportunity to go to the main door. And we are extremely happy and grateful for all of that. You saw all the reasons why they are taking us here and making sure that the voice of the health community will be loud and clear. And you will hear it today from all of those who have been championing and now will take the heritage after this historic day of tomorrow, where for the first time we are having this health day and having the voice of, fortunately, many ministers. The number is growing, so I'm not giving you the number yet, but it's growing, and it will be a fantastic momentum. But to start and to make sure that we put the ambition at the right level, creating a lot of expectations, let me then give the floor first. And I see a lot of familiar faces and friendly faces that are very happy with this moment. Let me welcome you, please, to the stage, His Excellency Dr. Sultan Al Jaber, COP28 President, IUE, Special Envoy for Climate Change, and Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology. Please.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum. Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear colleagues and friends, it indeed gives me great pleasure to be here this morning and to speak to such an esteemed audience. I must say, if it wasn't for your commitment, your dedication, and your hard work over the past year, working very closely with the COP28 team, I don't think we would be at this place celebrating this first ever Ministerial of Health and Climate meeting. Allow me first, and before I engage with you in this conversation, is to welcome you all to the United Arab Emirates, to Dubai, and to COP28. And as you've heard me say many times before, it is you who drives our determination, our excitement, and our motivation to make this COP be a truly defining moment in our global effort in addressing climate change. This COP is a pivotal moment. We are at an inflection point, and this is the most consequential COP after Paris. It has become very evident to everyone involved, those who are close to the subject at hand and those who are far from this very important conversation, that we don't need any more evidence for climate disasters. I think it is more evident today than ever before that time has come for the world to unite and for the world to act and to deliver. And COP28 is that platform that will provide such an opportunity for us to unite, act, and deliver. The world is watching. Everyone is expecting unprecedented outcomes of this COP. And I have committed myself and the COP28 presidency team to give it our best and to do everything possible to deliver the most ambitious response to the global stocktake. I also want to thank the members of the COP28 Health Steering Committee and all of our partners from the health community, as well as those who are in the climate industry. You all know how appreciative we are of your efforts. You are all doing great work advancing health and the climate agenda. Colleagues, the climate challenge is increasingly becoming a health challenge. You can no longer divide them. They're very much interlinked and interconnected. Beyond extreme heat, storms, and floods, climate impacts are affecting food security, water security, and of course, clean air. The World Health Organization estimates that 7 million deaths could be attributed to air pollution alone each year. And it is the most vulnerable and marginalized in global society who are most likely to suffer. That is why COP28 has joined with the World Health Organization, and I here must recognize and acknowledge the leadership of our good friend and colleague, Dr. Tedros, and for his commitment and devotion for making this be a reality and an important milestone at this COP. We could not have done this without your help, sir. Thank you. And that is why we joined hands with the World Health Organization and the UAE Ministry of Health to organize the first ever Health Day and Health Ministerial at this UN Climate Conference. We look forward to welcoming ministers of health, senior health representatives and delegates from all over the world to come and participate in this very important discussion. The COP28 presidency has developed the UAE Declaration on Climate and Health in partnership with a group of champion countries, including Brazil, Egypt, Fiji, Germany, Kenya, Malawi, Netherlands, the UK, the US, and many others. The declaration seeks to increase cross-sector collaboration, reduce emissions in the health sector, and increase climate health financing. In addition, COP28 is bringing together climate funds, global health financiers, development banks, governments, businesses, philanthropies. And we can't do this, of course, without providing the necessary enablers and facilitation to the private sector. The private sector must find their way to help finance climate health interventions. And I know if we were to think creatively and together, we will develop those opportunities and equip them with the right facilities and enablement. Ladies and gentlemen, COP28 is the first COP to give health its rightful place in the climate agenda. And I am very happy to say that up until this moment, we have received 123 commitments from countries that are ready to sign the health declaration. That is a big achievement. In fact, in my view, it is a giant leap in the right direction. And of course, I continue to engage and I continue to ask many others to sign up. Those who have not signed up already have given me the right signals and positive responses that they will be signing up soon. And I am very much counting on them coming on board. I also ask you to maximize the opportunity we have created together. We must develop real, tangible results through products, through projects, through investment opportunities. We cannot be only focused on text or words on paper. We must translate this vision, this commitment, into real, practical projects, opportunities, and products that will touch the lives and the livelihoods. People is central to our strategic imperative at COP28, and that will continue to stay our focus. Of course, I do count on everyone engaged at this COP to keep our North Star shining at all times, and that is keeping 1.5 within reach. Everything we do must come under that umbrella. Everything we engage on must always align with keeping 1.5 within reach. We must continue to engage and exchange ideas. Please don't hesitate to share best practices. We should allow and enable to uncover innovation, and we should make sure that we become the nucleus and the hub that will allow for more connections and more relationships and more partnerships to be created. At COP28, I ask you to take the opportunity to make a real difference to the health of millions of people around the world. They are watching us and they're waiting for how we're going to respond. And I know I can count on you, and I trust that you will help us respond in a meaningful way. Thank you.
Dr. Sultan, thank you so much. We are absolutely thrilled by your leadership and the way you facilitate for us, for WHO and the international health community, this possibility of having this health day. Trust me, you will not regret it. The health community, the health argument is the one that can motivate and increase this level of ambition that you were asking for. The health arguments are the most powerful and the ultimate opportunity for public health. Now I'm very happy and proud to introduce you to the next two speakers, two keynote speakers that will be telling you how we have championing all of this. My pleasure to then call to the stage Her Excellency Ren Al-Hashami, the Emirates Minister of the State for International Cooperation, and of course, my dear boss, Dr. Tedros, the Director General of the World Health Organization. Please join me on the stage. And I will leave you alone.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thank you, Dr. Maria, for your introduction. It's a special moment for us in the United Arab Emirates and certainly with COP28 to welcome the health community to sit in the forefront and in center stage of what is increasingly becoming a clear climate and health nexus. Global public health has long been a defining priority for our country, from the fight against malaria and polio and NTDs to the addition of global manufacturing capacity for COVID vaccines. So when Dr. Tedros, who is not so prone to hyperbole, says that climate change is the single biggest health threat facing humanity, we must all take notice and certainly take action. And as you've heard Dr. Sultan mention, when we were appointed to serve as president of COP28, we also knew that our frame of mind had to be that climate decisions are also health decisions.
Thank you very much. Thank you, my sister Reem. Very glad to share this platform with you. Have been working together for more than 15 years now. So such a great honor to share this stage with you. And thank you to you and UAE for putting health front and center as part of its COP28 presidency. And I would say UAE a pathfinder. I truly believe that health can be a game changer for climate action because it matters to everyone. We cannot maintain good health in a world of more frequent and severe heat waves, wildfires, floods, and droughts, with increasing temperatures fueling the spread of infectious diseases, destroying harvests, and increasing water scarcity. Delivering on the Paris Agreement will help to protect both health and the planet. The same air pollution that causes climate change is associated with 7 million deaths a year. Our addiction to oil, gas, and coal is not just an act of environmental vandalism. From the health perspective, it's an act of self-sabotage. At the same time, communities around the world need support to prepare for and adapt to the devastating health harms of climate change. We urgently need to scale up the financing and implementation of adaptation measures, especially for communities affected by extreme weather, sea level rise, and other vulnerable populations with few resources. The health sector has both a responsibility and an important role as a partner for climate action. WHO and the Alliance for Transformative Action on Climate and Health are supporting countries to transition to low-carbon, resilient health systems.
So what we decide here in Dubai on the global stocktake, the global goal on adaptation, the accelerated transition away from fossil fuels, and every other item will mean a huge difference in mortality and in human health as we aim to close gaps in the Paris Agreement by 2030. Because health is the personal experience of climate change. It is the human face of climate change. And therefore, it is our shared duty to present and future generations, protecting our climate as the foundation upon which we all depend on for our health and our well-being. And at the same time, there are massive opportunities for our health and prosperity by taking decisive action now. So we do not view investment in the health-climate nexus as a cost, but instead an exceptional lever for our societies and for overall economic productivity. which is why our work with the WHO and the steering committee of champion countries and health institutions have managed to garner and amplify our message loud and clear around the world. And it gives me distinct pleasure on behalf of the UAE and the COP28 presidency to highlight that 123 countries have come together to endorse COP28's UAE Declaration on Climate and Health. This declaration represents a powerful call to action and a new level of ambition to prioritize human health in the fight against climate change. And it captures both the threats and the opportunities that sets out a transformational agenda and shared priorities for countries to act. I look forward to hearing from many endorsers of the declaration at the Health Ministerial tomorrow, along with other individual country commitments and announcements, which I am certain will ensure that the health declaration is turned into action.
Thank you. Before I proceed, I would like to recognize the presence of Her Excellency Prime Minister Mia Mottley. Thank you so much for your commitment and support and leadership. And also former Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard. So thank you so much. And to all ministers present today. The declaration emerged from the call by countries for a strong health sector response to climate change and for climate action to protect health. The declaration, which builds on the momentum from past COPs and attach, is a platform to drive political commitments and to serve as clear call to action on climate and health. I thank countries for their commitment to delivering on the commitments of the declaration. WHO is proud to join the many ministries of health attending COP28. This is an unprecedented show of support from the health community for climate action.
It's the WTO's leadership and dedicated work with countries, many who are present in the room today, to tackle climate and health that laid the groundwork for the momentum that we're seeing. But we must turn these commitments on climate and health into action. And to do that, we will require finance. We've worked intensely with our partners to ensure that an initial tranche of finance can back up our political commitment and scale up our solutions. So I'm thrilled to be able to announce an aggregated $1 billion for climate and health, enabled by a series of new financing commitments, including by the Green Climate Fund, the Asian Development Bank, the Global Fund, and the Rockefeller Foundation. These initiatives will be partnering closely with countries and communities to scale up a diverse set of high-impact, nationally determined investments on climate and health. They will be investing in public health measures to protect people and communities from a wide range of climate risks to health. They will be building better, more resilient, and environmentally sustainable health systems. And they will be investing in solutions across sectors that simultaneously reduce carbon emissions and air pollution. This integrated nature of such a consortium has not happened at this scale before, pulling from both climate and health levers. This de-siloing sets the stage for greater quality and quantity of finance on the way to the next round of NDCs and NAPs, as well as the SDGs. As a dimension of this integration, today we are also launching a new set of principles for financing climate and health solutions. The financing principles were developed by COP28 in collaboration with the Global Fund, the Green Climate Fund, and the Rockefeller Foundation. They lay out a common understanding of what climate health investment means in practice. And what it means is that we cannot continue with business as usual, and we must reframe and relook at our entire architecture as we address this new alarming nexus. These principles have now been endorsed by more than 40 partners, including climate financiers and global health financiers, as well as development banks, countries, philanthropies, and the private sector.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your leadership and vision. And we welcome the financing commitments of so many generous partners. And thank you so much for sharing that good news. This is critical, especially for lower-income countries, to turn climate and health goals into reality. Truly protecting health demands action to deliver clean air and water, healthy food systems, and sustainable, resilient, and green energy sources for the health sector. It's heartening to see both global health and climate partners coming together, and for ministers of health at COP28 to talk to their counterparts across sectors on how to put health at the heart of the climate agenda. I will leave you with 3 priorities for going forward. First, to deliver on the Paris Agreement and accelerate the phase out of fossil fuels. It's estimated that this will save 1 million lives a year from air pollution. Second, to transition to climate resilient, low carbon health systems. And third, to deliver on your climate finance promises and spend this on saving lives and improving the health of the most vulnerable. Of course, appreciating the announcement that was made by Minister Rim Al-Hashmi. I'm pleased to note that next year, the World Health Assembly will consider its first resolution on climate and health. I look forward to the first COP held day tomorrow, going to be very historic, and to keeping health at the center, or better still, at the heart of the climate agenda. And thank you again, UAE, for your commitment to put health at the center stage.
Thank you, Dr. Tedros. We will all continue to ensure that human health in the face of climate change constantly demands perpetual and deep collaboration. I believe we now have the basis within the COP process to move to a greater scale and, importantly, a greater impact, and to end any silly confusion about whether the climate crisis is a health crisis. So on behalf of the UAE and COP28, I'd like to once again thank you and congratulate the community members of health professionals who are here for COP, the leadership in this room that has galvanized the political momentum to address this important cause. You've achieved a milestone moment, and though we might soon need a new metaphor, an unstoppable snowball effect. Thank you all so much for your time and attention. Thank you for being with us.
The music. Thank you so much. Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for the announcements. Thank you, Dr. Tedros.
Something. Maria normally is high energy, but today I see something. So I want her to be herself, high energy.
Thank you so much, thank you. Thank you both, amazing. Yes, I think I have energy, renewable energy, the positive one, the human one. And I think you are a little bit all impressed by this amazing room. Please relax, come on. Come on, relax a little bit. You are too serious, don't be so impressed. It's beautiful. We are making history, as WHO Director General mentioned, but it will be a healthy, positive, amazing history. And to keep with that track, it's my special honor to now welcome a special appearance, our Prime Minister from Barbados, a very strong voice, Dr. Tedros, please allow her to come in. Her Excellency Mia Mottley, the Prime Minister of Barbados. Please, you have the stage.
Thank you very much. Good morning to each and every one of you. And let me thank both Dr. Tedros and my sister, Minister Reem Al-Hashimi, who both spoke at the opening and who have given us the good news that we are not only agreeing to change course at this COP to include climate and health as our focus, but that it is being anchored by the funding that is necessary to give it oxygen to get off the ground. The reality is that we have come thus far, not just talking about climate and health, but really seeing the consequences of it. The consequences of it for those who have had to endure wildfires, the consequences of it for those who have only known scarcity with respect to food and water, the consequences of it with respect to those who are now the victims of heat. When I was growing up, we used to talk about 96 degrees in the shade as if it was something very far and remote from us, as was made popular in the Third World song. The regrettable reality is that 96 degrees in the shade seems cool for so many today. I pray that this understanding and this agreement to have health at the center now formally, while it has been the reality of too many millions of people across the globe, will mean that we can also seek to get ahead of the curve with respect to the things that we know are likely to happen. We expect that there's a strong possibility of new pathogens that will develop. We expect that we need to be able to ensure that we are in a position to treat persons when and if these new pathogens become a reality across our globe. But what has been the reality for us? I chair the One Health Global Initiative along with Malta, and we focus on antimicrobial resistance, and we need to. It is already the third largest killer in the world, and it is expected to be the largest reason for people dying by 2050. It is expected that it will reverse a century of medical progress, because going to the dentist or having a baby will now become a high-risk act if infections come into play. In the year 2000, the world had 20 firms doing research on antimicrobial resistance and looking for new antibiotics. Today, there are 4 firms. And if we study, the economics of antibiotics just doesn't work, because we take antibiotics for what, 7 days, 10 days, 14 days? But drug companies will invest in those medicines where people take them for years. And that is regrettably not including antibiotics. I pray that we can therefore get to the realization that global public goods require investment in those things that are not economically viable on their own and financially sustainable on their own. And to that extent, therefore, the high-level session at the United Nations General Assembly next year on antimicrobial resistance will hopefully reposition this in our thoughts and also as an object of serious financing that is needed. We have learned recently what happens when we don't get ahead of the curve with the COVID-19 pandemic. The other aspect of it that I'd like us to focus on is the whole question of pharmaceutical equity. Whether we like it or not, there is serious inequity in the world with respect to access to pharmaceuticals. And the time perhaps has come for a South-South alliance that allows people to opt in and countries to opt in, to ensure that we can create the markets in the global South and that we can have a just industrial strategy that will allow for access. Had it not been for the vaccine apartheid, we probably would not have paid sufficient attention to this inequity. And it isn't only in relation to vaccines, but let us deal with cancer, let us deal with other debilitating diseases. Simply put, a lot of the biologics are not available in the global South, and even if they're available, the prices are way out of control and therefore not in immediate access for most of our citizens. I pray that therefore this renewed effort to focus on health and to focus on climate will also focus on the consequential areas that are needed if we are to deliver relief to our people in a just and meaningful way. And I look forward, therefore, Dr. Tedros, to you working with the countries of the world to ensure that these things that have been forgotten in the way, as we go along will now become the major focus for us. This world will not survive easily if we continue to decimate populations simply by reason of lack of access through either poverty of nations or poverty of families and individuals. And I look forward, therefore, to lending our voices on this critical area as we focus on so many other things, but without health, we have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I know that you are a Prime Minister, but maybe you should be a Minister of Health as well, because the last sentence was great. No health, no survival. We still have a fantastic program in front of us, and of course we are already late, so probably my fault. But anyway, let me call all my panelists to the stage, please. I'm so pleased to have today Irene Atuaguirre. She's the Uganda Country Director from the SID Global Health. Irene, please join the podium. Then I have Dr. Christos Christou. He's the President of Doctors Without Borders International. Then I will have the privilege to have as well Dr. Rajit Shah, President of the Rockefeller Foundation, and of course, Mafalda Duarte, the Executive Director of the Green Climate Fund. Peter Sand, of course, the Executive Director of the Global Fund. Please take your seats, leave me this one for me, and it will be an honor to lead this panel. Hola, Mafalda. Okay, wonderful. We promised you at the beginning, at the opening of this event, that you will hear from the leaders of the world. And we are having this special day, Health Day, for the first time ever. So who else better to position what the front line workers, health workers are doing every day? Irene, you want to start on telling us how do you feel on your daily life, the consequences of climate change, and whether you have been able to identify some solutions as well. I hope everybody's okay if I call you Irene Christos. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. That will save us a lot of time. Thank you so much. Irene.
Thank you so much. It is an honor to be here and to speak on behalf of all health workers. Uganda, my home country, has made tremendous strides in improving the health of our population. We have halved the maternal mortality, and we have increased the life expectancy of the population to 64 years. However, we risk losing this progress because of climate change. We are seeing a huge increase in cases from malaria, and it is still the leading cause of death in Uganda. In 2023, no one in any country should die from a preventable disease such as malaria. Last year, we had the Ebola outbreak. And with climate change, these outbreaks will happen more and more times. For example, in Uganda, we have, for a health worker, instead of seeing 20 patients a day, we are seeing about 100 patients because of diseases like malaria, because of diseases like Ebola. The heavy rainfalls have also increased waterborne diseases like cholera and other diarrheal diseases. So we need to ask ourselves, would we like to be seen by a patient, by a health worker who has seen 20 patients or 100 patients? These diseases are increasing the stress and burnout of health workers at the front line.
Thank you, Irene. You want to keep on going?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I come from Kigezi, which is in the southern part of Uganda. We never used to have malaria. Growing up, I hardly got malaria. However, today, a cold place like Kigezi is having huge cases of malaria. So we need to find the solutions, and we know that these solutions are there. They are simple. For example, last year in the Ebola outbreak, Seed Global Health with partners worked alongside the Ministry of Health to train health workers in infection prevention and control to stop the spread of the virus. We were able to contain the disease within 4 months. We not only protected our citizens, but we protected the citizens of the world just by investing in the health workers. So today, I want to make this call. We must invest in health. Not only in health, but in the health workers who take care of us. We also have to address the elephant in the room. We need to stop emissions. Many of us here, leaders, are continuing to allow our countries to make emissions at outrageous rates. We need to come together to stop these emissions and protect the health of people in communities like mine and also in communities in other parts of the country. So today, on behalf of all health workers in Uganda and on behalf of citizens of the world, I wish to urge all of us to stop emissions so that we can protect our health and the health of all citizens of the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Irene. Definitely the need for adaptation and mitigation. We need to make sure that the health systems are better prepared, and for that we need financing. Thank you very much. Christos, you are the president of one of the leading world medical humanitarian associations. I've been very proud of being one of you, a Doctor Without Borders, a few years ago. You don't need to know how many, but a few years ago. And I'm still very proud of that. What do you see at the ground level, and how are you changing your work at the global level to influence?
Well, Maria, thank you very much, and distinguished delegates, Your Excellencies. I think, having heard all this great news, I would still like to emphasize a little bit on those most vulnerable populations around the world. And I will start by sharing a few words by one of my colleagues in Mozambique. He says, "Those who wonder what climate change looks like should come to Mozambique. We're bearing the brunt of actions by the world's most polluting countries. We now have malaria all year around, and we are stuck by cyclone after cyclone." So yes, as a medical humanitarian organization, we see that the crisis hits the most vulnerable people the hardest. And we know that because we see them in our waiting rooms, from Niger to Mozambique, from Honduras to Bangladesh. We treat patients for infectious diseases like malaria and dengue, for malnutrition, and for health issues linked to extreme weather events. And since last year only, since COP27, we have responded to widespread flooding in South Sudan, Kenya, severe cyclones in Myanmar and Madagascar, and to relentless heat and drought that have driven millions to the edge of starvation in the Horn of Africa. We have responded to concurrent cholera outbreaks in several countries and alarmingly high rates of dengue across the Americas. And the deadly mix of malaria with malnutrition is something that I want to raise here, has kept our pediatric wards full across the Sahel. Especially in Chad, our teams now provide prevention and treatment for malnutrition all year round. I think that so far, there's too little that has been done to protect all these vulnerable people. And many communities are faced with multiple crises. People are paying with their health and their lives for a problem that they did not create. So, as this is a global stocktake, we have to be brave and say clearly that actions to date are failing to meet today's needs, let alone the growing challenge ahead. And the global political leadership has failed to deliver on commitments to curb emissions and to deliver on promises to support the most affected countries to adopt. I think this must change now. We had some great news. I'm really pleased to see that health is coming from the main door, as you mentioned before, and needs to stay here. Because these communities need to see climate action that equals the scale of the climate emergency. They need real commitment to take the urgent, essential, and overdue actions required to dramatically reduce the emissions. They need concrete financial and technical support to adapt to. And I think we cannot just continue to look on it. It is a humanitarian catastrophe. How many more years will go by? How many more COPs? How many more lives will be affected or lost until and before there are some concrete measures decided? Yes, I want to thank you all, Excellencies, for being also here and make it very clear that we cannot, as doctors and as humanitarians, we cannot afford further catastrophic failure.
Thank you very much. Well, you will see during these days that the health voice will be loud and clear, and hopefully we will have this first health day, but then we will not going back. From here, we want even more. They invite us to come. We are not going out. So I hope they will not regret the fact that they invited us. Let me go to you, Dr. Rashid. You are the president of the Rockefeller Foundation, one of the most important philanthropic organizations. You have a very good record as well on public health issues. And you will be launching those guiding principles for investing in the financial. What do we do to elevate this horrible need that we have at the moment for financing climate change and health? You heard the situation. You want to start with that?
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be here with such a great panel of people that we've known for a long time and really respect the commitments that we've all made to fight against really health inequities on a planetary basis, and it's an honor to be with you. I will say, as the first official gathering on climate and health at a COP, this is in and of itself an extraordinary step forward, and so I want to thank everybody for making that possible. The Rockefeller Foundation's mission for more than 100 years has been to focus on vulnerability, and it's quite clear that there's no greater vulnerability to our planet and to the people that inhabit our planet than climate change. So the session is particularly important. We heard Dr. Sultan, Irene, and others talk about heat, storms, floods, food and water insecurity that is really going to create extraordinary vulnerabilities to even current infectious disease pressures, but also meaningful changes in the actual infectious disease pressures that are faced in community after community around the world, and frankly, the number of threatening, potentially global pandemics like the one we just came out of. So when you look at all of the context of what puts downward pressure on our ability to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals for health we've set, if we're not really squarely focused on studying, learning, and ultimately addressing in local communities across this planet in an equitable manner the threats from climate change, we simply have no chance at being successful at achieving our previously stated health goals. In that context, our foundation and many of you focus on what are those climate solutions that can respond to that crisis. Climate and health observatories, wastewater surveillance, a deeper understanding of the role of nutrition and nutritional sufficiency and what really prevents people from suffering the consequences of infectious disease. And it's for that purpose that our foundation will commit $100 million going forward to climate and health financing, consistent with the, consistent with the principles that, that we've all worked together to develop. I don't think we should say the foundation or any global entity, including the Global Fund and the Green Climate Fund that spent so much time on this, created these principles, because the principles have come really from more than 50 consultations with civil society organizations around the world and really respond to a very simple question. If you ask communities what they fear, what support they need, and how we should respond to that reality, that then results in these principles. So we should do a better job of listening to local communities, and these principles are actually a codification of that concept. That said, I very much hope that these principles and our collective advocacy for them helps to change the mindset of how we are approaching climate change as a global community. We're here at COP28. We know that the world is trillions of dollars, perhaps 3.8 or $4 trillion a year short on financing a climate transition. We tend to look to the private sector for large-scale solutions that are coming way too slowly and being deployed very inequitably across our planet. And I hope these principles will help leaders, decision makers, activists, and political movements around the world see that this is actually one big integrated fight, not just to abate current emissions, but also to deeply protect the risks that have already been created for billions of people who live in vulnerable communities globally. So thank you for having us, and excited to be here.
Thank you very much, Dr. And you say it, we have this sense of urgency. Health is giving us this sense of urgency. You hear it from the previous speaker. So Mafalda, buenos días. ¿Cómo estás?
Hola, buenos días. ¿Cómo estás, María?
Moving to you, because you heard the problem we have in terms of financial support for this very urgent issue of climate change and health. The health systems need to respond. The health community needs to respond. We see already all of those challenges, and we are already paying a huge price for all of that. You are the executive director of one of the largest funds, multinational ones. So how do you see this response? Do you have any suggestions for us, particularly in the next 12 months? I mean, if we need to react as the level of ambition that we will all like to react. So easy question for you, Mafalda.
Thank you, Maria. And let me start by saying that I share your happiness and your energy today, because to me it's a real pleasure to see health taking center stage at a COP. It's long overdue. So congratulations to the UAE and the COP28 team for placing it right at the center of this COP. I say often, I have been speaking about climate and health for some time, and seeing the insufficient attention paid to this climate and health nexus. And I'm going to call on all of you and on your networks to really use health as a lever for climate action and climate ambition. We don't have enough health voices. Everybody cares about health. Who doesn't care about health? So we need to use this connection, this climate and health connection, and use these networks and these communities. We need the health community to be speaking over and over and over again about why climate action and ambitious climate action matter. And it matters for what everybody cares, which is health. So I'm calling on all of you to please do your best to help on this cause. But of course, we also have to prepare the health systems. And we saw, I think we got a taste of the impact that it can have not to have health systems prepared to withstand shocks. The pandemic was a very clear example, but what's coming because of climate is something that we really don't fully understand. A colleague here from Uganda is talking about malaria cases increasing significantly, dramatically, and the health system being unprepared to respond. Unfortunately, what is expected and what we know from the science is that that will increase substantially. So the cost here, the cost of inaction, and governments and ministries of finance, if we articulate this in a clear way, they ought to pay attention, because they always care about how much it goes from the state budget to the health system. There are two systems that, in my experience, they always care much about, is education and health. So the costs of inaction are extraordinary. I give you my example, just to bring a personal element to this. I had dengue fever once, and I was 3 weeks without being able to work, and it took me 9 months, and I'm relatively healthy. I consider myself a relatively healthy person. It took me 9 months to go back to where I was prior to dengue. But dengue is expanding, and unfortunately, mostly in the global south. And it has serious personal, social, economic impacts. And this is just one example. Malaria is another example, and so many others. So we really can't fail on these investments, on being champions of this nexus of climate and health, and making sure that we invest a lot more. Countries know this very well. 91% of the NDCs mention health and the need to invest. The flows that are going to health are insignificant. This is why, it's a great pleasure as leading the Green Climate Fund at the moment. It's the largest multilateral climate fund. We will place health as one of the priorities in the next programming cycle. We are already investing, but what we are doing, we are investing already around 450 million, but it's clearly a drop. We need to do a lot more. So today, I am, and it was already mentioned, it's also with great pleasure that I convey to you that with WHO and UNDP, we are preparing a proposal, a significant proposal of a climate and health co-investment facility to leverage public and private capital to promote these climate resilient, sustainable, and low carbon health systems. And because of time, and I know you are already, also it has been a great pleasure to collaborate with the Global Fund and the Rockefeller Foundation and WHO on the principles, on the guiding principles. And there will be more to come because Peter and I are also going to be announcing a partnership between the two organizations to also drive further action and investments in the Global South. So thank you all very much. Look forward to working with many of you. Please be a voice. The health community, please be a voice for ambitious climate action. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Obrigada, Mafalda. Those are amazing announcements and definitely the sense of urgency. And we will make sure that the voice of the health community will be heard loud and clear, and every day a little bit more. Today we are many here, but after the decisions, I'm sure that this movement is irreversible. So you will hear more and more. Peter Sant, you are the happy executive director of one of the biggest organizations financing health that made a lot of progress, the Global Fund on HIV/AIDS, malaria, TB. I'm sure you have something to contribute here on what are the solutions and how do you see that it will be the way to invest more on responding to this climate crisis, which is representing such a devastating negative consequences on the health of the people. Not to forget air pollution, Mafalda, 7 million premature deaths every year, that we could do something about that. Peter, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. I thought Minister Reem Halashimi put it very nicely when she talked about health putting the human face on the impact of climate. But of course, as others on the panel have already said, the impact isn't on all faces equally. It's the poorest and most vulnerable, most marginalized who get hit hardest, by far the hardest, and it will worsen global inequities. And that's why, from a Global Fund perspective, it makes sense that we are investing 71% of our grant funds over the next 3 years. That's about about $9 billion in the 50 most vulnerable, climate vulnerable countries, because it's the people in those countries who are already most at risk from the deadliest infectious diseases who are also going to be the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. There's this kind of cruel irony that it's a 2 or 3-year-old in, Irene spoke of Uganda or Crystal spoke of Mozambique. It's a 2 or 3-year-old who has had arguably least contribution to carbon emissions in the world, who is now most likely to be very ill or die as a result of the health impact of climate change. We are seeing actually a very rapid shift in the country-owned programs that we fund through the Global Fund, with an increasing focus on the reduction of carbon emissions, the adaptation of health systems for withstanding extreme weather events or extreme heat, but also actions to anticipate and respond to the changing dynamics of diseases, particularly climate-sensitive diseases like malaria. And a couple of specific things that we are doing. One is around seasonal malaria chemoprevention. Very cost-effective way of protecting children from seasonal malaria. And we're investing over $200 million protecting almost 50 million children. And this is increasingly important because climate change is changing both the duration and timing and making seasonal malaria much less predictable. As another example of how we're helping countries reinforce the resilience of their health systems, we're investing over $300 million in disease surveillance. And I think the critical new thing there is linking meteorological surveillance with epidemiological surveillance so that countries are better able to anticipate surges in diseases like malaria or dengue or cholera. What we've seen already is that responding to the disease impacts of climate-related extreme weather events requires very flexible, quick funding. Recently, we've deployed through our emergency fund around $40 million for Pakistan, for Mozambique, for Malawi, responding to floods and cyclones. For 2024, we have an initial sum in our emergency fund of 12 million. We already know we're going to have to top that up. It's not going to be enough. But collectively, we do need to be able to help countries to respond to such events. None of this is going to happen through any one organization. It's going to require organizations at a global level, regional level, local level, and indeed, critically, as Raj said, the communities themselves. We've certainly been working on our partnerships at a global level. For instance, a couple of weeks ago with Ajay Banga of the World Bank, we signed an agreement around how we're going to work, the Global Fund and the World Bank are going to work together on climate change-related issues. And as Mafalda mentioned, the Green Climate Fund and the Global Fund are also announcing a partnership which is around how we work together effectively on accelerating investments in this arena. And I do think these guiding principles that have been mentioned a couple of times are really important because they give us a common framework and language around which we can work together. They're a starting point, and indeed I see this day as an incredibly important starting point. But I do also think, to reinforce some of the comments of others, we need a sense of urgency about action. The impact of climate change on health is not something that is going to happen. It is happening right now, and people are dying because of it. So I think people should take from today a real sense of this is something that we need to be moving on right now because it is killing people right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I have a microphone here, and they are telling me that we are running late. But I will love to ask you a second round of questions, but I'm afraid they will not allow me. But I hope this has created the desire of getting more information. Yes, the sense of urgency. I hope you will hear it again from the Ministers of Health tomorrow. Having such an incredible number of Ministers of Health tomorrow here, signing a declaration, but the declaration is just the beginning. We want to go for more. We need to have investments. We need a strategic alignment on those investments, and we need to make sure that we respond to the needs of the frontline people who are already paying the price for a problem that is created by others. A big applause to all of them. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well done.
Thank you. And now, it's not over. It's not over, please. We still have a very important opportunity now. We are very happy and privileged to have with us Julia Gillard. Julia was the Prime Minister of Australia, and now she's the chair of the Wellcome Trust. I think everybody knows Wellcome Trust and the incredible role that they have played as well on the international public health. Julia, what do you get from all of these amazing interventions? Please, you have the closure